Good evening, Lion Golf Academy members and guests. And no, this isn't clown makeup. It's this big bright light staring right at me in the face, and I've got to get a new light. So if you know a good light I can use, let me know in the comments. And today we're going to take a look at Ludvig Aberg. Forgive me for butchering that name, but after looking at his swing, I can see why this guy can launch it, and it looks similar to the Zuid-Afrikaanse Nagmire Wilco Nienaber, who hits the ball phenomenally long as well. Is this a swing of the future? Is this a swing that we're going to see more of coming down the road? If so, look out. No USGA ball route is going to stop the power that this person can create. So stay with me as we take a look at his cause and effect and see what we can learn. Maybe we can try and do some of this in our golf swing, but most likely not. And remember, I'm not here to teach a method, I'm just showing you cause and effect. You should always work with the PGA or LPGA certified coach that can get a game plan just for you. And if you do like this at any point in time, hit that like, subscribe, share, you know the deal. It really helps to get clubs in the hands of children in Cape Flat, South Africa, as we do donate profits straight to that cause. And let me know what you think in the comments, who you want me to see analyzed next. Are you going to try and swing like this, or are you going to stay away from it and save on the hospital bills? But enough of that rotten mistletoe. Let's check out Ludvig Aberg. Hey ladies and gentlemen, so it's been a few hours since I did that intro and I've had a few early Christmas ciders, so forgive me if I lose myself a couple times, more so than I usually lose myself. And we can see a couple of lines flaring up all over the place. On the right side we have the plane lines, the yellow line is the spine angle line, that small red is the back brace line to see any motion, and we're looking at where his centeredness is, and we can see that long red line will just show how much of the body is leaning towards his toes. So he does appear like he is forward leaning, which plays a part in how he's able to hit the ball very far. Left side of the screen, that long red line is a spine angle line. We're going to keep that there throughout the whole swing to see how that works. And he does a little bit of rocking as opposed to turning, and this is where he gets most of his power. He actually limits his backswing with his hips and really unwinds and also rocks with the lower body. Now, as usual, we're just going to play this over and over again because I've had quite a few of you say, hey, I just want to see the swing before you dissect it. So let's give a moment of silence for all of us that cannot hit it 350. So a moment of silence is up, and hopefully that is enough to cure our ailments of not hitting at 350. But let's take a look now. We can't really get a setup diagnosis on this forward-facing camera because it is slightly off-center. Whoever recorded this recorded it at about 4 o'clock, and we can't really see ball position related to his spine angle setup. So what we're going to do is just go straight to the swing. Right side of the screen, let's take a look at the arm motion. The arm motion goes a little bit higher than the plane line, but take a look at where that spine angle and that club face are. They are right next to each other in parallel lines. So yes, this might be one plane-ish. I'm not a huge one plane, two plane kind of guy. I think a swing is a swing, and we can't really lump them into any one motion. So yes, that is very connected. On the left side of the screen, look at how wide this is, and this is another key part to how he's able to create so much power, is he's able to keep that left arm nice and straight. The right arm is fairly straight too. It has to suck back a little bit because if he holds both of these dead straight, he will start to tilt a lot, and they'll ground the club about 3 feet before the ball, like I know some of us tend to do sometimes. But look at that right hip. Notice how the right hip is not turning as much. It's more like it's shifting. As we take that club back, we can see that the top plane line on his right side, he gets that left arm perfect to that top plane line, and we can take a look at where that club face is in relation to his left forearm. It is slightly closed, but not much. Looks pretty solid from there. Look at the hip turn though. Not a lot of hip turn, but look at the shoulder turn. That is very much past 90 degrees with the shoulder turn. Hip turn, I would venture to say, let's call that 20 degrees, 25, maybe 30 to max. But look at how much of that right leg has shifted over. So this is more like a throwing a ball where you get the weight to go right to left as opposed to turning. This is more of a sliding action. So at the top of the swing, what we can do as well is when we put that long red line on the left side of the screen at the starting position, what we can look at is how far does that club get back in relation, and let's draw that in our favorite Barney purple, and we can see, does that form a T based on his spine angle? It's pretty close to one. So this is a nice true turn. That is how far your club needs to go. And if you look at the relationship between that shoulder turn versus the club, great turn. Club is nowhere near to parallel. So if you want to know how far your club should go back, get as big of a turn as you can, and it should not go past 90 degrees from your spine angle. That's probably the easiest way to check on yourself. Now, a key thing that I think helps people that get on their toes toes in their setup is allowing their body to turn on the way through. It's a lot easier to turn when you're on your toes as opposed to your heels. When you're trying to turn on your heels, you tend to spin out and you fall back. On your toes, it becomes a little bit more athletic, and this is where he takes advantage of it. Watch the hips first. What do the hips do? On the left side of the screen, the hips push back to the impact line. Now, this is a big thing because this is allowing that weight transfer that he stored up on his right foot to slide back to his left foot. So this is what I talked about when we saw some rocking of the hips. But on the right side of the screen, what do you see in that same motion? Look at those hips. Look at the belt. The belt is staying level as he is just turning. Now, he's able to do this pretty well because he's on his toes. And when you get on your toes, you can then turn a lot easier. But at the same time, let's do a quick Barney Purple triangle check. We're going to create some t-shirts that says Barney Purple triangle check. And we're going to see where his hands need to go down. I had to redraw that triangle. It didn't look like a triangle. So thank goodness I wasn't in charge of building the pyramids. My pyramids would have fallen down. And let's look at where that arm should fall down into. Now let's watch and see if that happens. Pulls it down. Look at the butt of the club. Butt of the club is following that line for a good portion as we take that club down. And what you'll notice is now the club starts to fall in that slot. And what is causing that is the bumping of the left hip towards the target allows his spine angle to stay in that position. So to help you understand this, let's draw a line on the center of his head down through the center of his hips. And we can see that's pretty straight as he comes on through. As he bumps it to the left side, the center of the hips look more like they are increasing his tilt, which is what the bumping of the left hip does to you, which allows your club head to fall in the slot. So they kind of work together. But what you notice is from this point on, let me clear up some of these lines. Repeat. What you notice here is this point on, watch the thrusting of the legs in terms they are going to start to stand up, push all the weight through his body out towards his outside of the circle. And we see that occurring right there. So from here to here, his hips have opened up, and now we see the body pushing up, legs straightening up. Look at the left leg. It is receiving some of that weight. It has to get out the way or he's going to be injured. And this is where he delivers that immense amount of power. So he is basically restricting his hip turn on the way back and using that restriction through impact. So at impact, he is very much open with his hips and he is now delivering all the power from his toes. So people that stay on their toes have more likelihood to transfer energy easier, more athletic, and turn a lot quicker. Now, do not try this at home because you need to have body mechanics like this gentleman does. You need to be able to separate your upper body from your lower body exactly like he does and take advantage of it and use the momentum of the weight shift from right to left a lot easier. But one other thing that is pretty impressive with him is his lag does not increase. He actually releases his lag in perfect timing with his hand speed. Now, what are you talking about, Tony? That doesn't make any sense. Well, let me do this. Let me clear up. Since I think we're done with all these lines. Wait a minute. Let me just go past impact and see where that release point is. So we can see his gained spacing on his left impact line. His spine angle is returning pretty close to where it was. We see the motion going left with his lower body. Upper body tilts under and the hands release correctly on that upper plane line. So this is a very solid swing. Let's back it up just shy of impact. We can see that club head is slightly open to his spine tilt here, that little bend forward. And that means that club head is closing slowly right at impact. This is where the club face is still holding pretty square as his body is helped as well square that club face, and the release happens pretty quickly and we can see now the club head is pointing the other way. So we're done with all these lines. Let me back it up and show you what I mean by retaining this angle here up into a point. And then what takes over is that release while his hand speed is moving in relation to the center of his chest. What we're going to do is go right down to impact, and we'll change from Barney Purple to a color that's easier to see. Let's go to Pac-Man Yellow, and we're going to draw that triangle. And what this shows you is the connection point between his hands and his chest. Let's back it up, and we can see that same connection point is still pretty much there. Let's back it up. And we go one more frame, that same connection point. So you can see the hands are slightly favoring that right shoulder. But what you'll notice is this angle here is still the same till about this position. Now that's important because he is actually releasing sooner than we see some of the other tour pros. But the reason he is doing that is because if you release that club sooner, your hand speed can stay relative to your shoulder turn. It's the outside of the circle. And we release coming on through and we take a look. we're going to draw that same triangle, and we're going to see, is that still relative to the center? Yes, it is. And it stays relative to the center well past impact. And this is what I talked about in my intro when he looks like Wilco Niedernaber, because at that follow through, you see that right hand, it's very similar to Wilco. And what happens with Wilco is he really opens up his body. That is a very body dominant golf swing because of the lack of turn on the way back and the increase of the turn on the way forward. As we come through, look at that follow through. Look how much the right hip is spun around, but it hasn't spun only, it is spun while he's driven his weight left. Look how far that right shoulder is pointing at the target. The right hip is starting to point towards the target. Everything is rotation, rotation, rotation. But in order to keep his hand speed up with that rotation, he has to release his lag sooner. If you have issues with your lag, do not try to increase your lag. Do not try to create more lag, because that's going to create complications for you at impact. You cannot keep your hand speed moving forward while you unhinge. Your hands will slow down. Now, if you have so much lag that you have to throw your hands back out in front, your hand speed will stop dead, and that creates contact issues. So you want to try and emulate some of this. I don't expect you to turn and rotate like this person does. Don't really focus on the lag so much. Let those hands go as well. If you have to feel like you're throwing your hands a little bit, that's okay, as long as it keeps your hand speed related to the center of your chest. So I hope that helps you. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you can take at least a few things away from this and get yourself, what am I having now? Get yourself some Henry Hotspur's hard pressed cider. It is truly delicious. I hope to see you next time. Fairways and greens.